Ladies and gentlemen, wise guys, made men alike, thank you so much for following and continuing to follow this Mobcast. I am back. I apologize for the long hiatus. I was working on a project, and which I'm still working on, and I'm going to get into that on today's Mobcast. I hope you guys are ready for a... Fuck. You know what? Let's just start the Mobcast.
Recorded in Little Italy, Louisiana. Welcome to Pinstripe Alley, the official Mobcast with A.P. Fanene.
And here we are, once again, ladies and gentlemen. I am back. I have returned. Hallelujah. And I'm here today with a special episode and a continuation from the last podcast, which seems like 647 billion years ago. Once again, nothing has changed. Thank you guys so much for buying my book, The Gatekeepers, Part 1 and 2. Thank you so much. Still at 5 stars, still getting good reviews, still selling. And I'm actually, I might be working on the third one. Probably. I'm working on the third one. Anyway, but that's not the project that I mentioned earlier. The project that I've been talking about, that I have been so wrapped up in that I haven't had time to do this Mobcast, which I love to do, is, well, as most of you know, you can't do anything without money. And what I have been doing, I've been working on a couple of screenplays to sell. I'm going to be traveling to Los Angeles to sell these screenplays. They have nothing to do with the book. But there are a couple of horror movie screenplays, and I'm doing this. I'm still going to put 110% into the project. It's not something that I specifically wanted to do, but I definitely need funding for the current project of this book and everything else, because this Gatekeepers book is still my passion project. It's still this entire series and everything about it, and the merchandise that I've posted on my Snapchat and Facebook and everything else. It's still a big thing to me, and it's still part of the future. So I have lost no momentum for it, even though I have been somewhat sidetracked due to the fact that I've been trying to complete this project to push my original passion project. The bottom line is sometimes you gotta do shit that you don't want to do, and that's what I'm currently doing. So anyway, that's where I've been, and thank you guys so much for keeping up. The book is still available on Amazon.com, actually everywhere books are sold, every online our current plan that we're using right now to have the book sold. They're on every single virtual platform. So The Gatekeepers Part 1 and then The Gatekeepers Entry 2, Warm Barrels, Cold Blood is also available, but you definitely want to read Part 1 before Part 2. Not to say Part 2 wouldn't be good on a standalone, but you'll be lost as shit. Come on. You want to be lost? I don't want to be lost. I'm lost half the time, So it is what it is. I think on this podcast, get out of here. On this Mobcast alone, I have, we've covered a lot of different things. We've covered, the different types of, mobster, I don't know why the word statistics slammed into my brain. We've different mob attributes, different ways that they make money, different ways that they kill people. And I was, after I did the last Mobcast previously, the one directly before this, we as in me and the voices in my head, I did the entire Mobcast about the Sopranos and talking about, the psychology and the basically the entire thesis of the show, trying to give a better, for those who haven't seen the show, give a look into the show and see what it's about. A lot of people during COVID-19, and HBO has COVID to thank for that, their stock in the Sopranos rising and this huge, need for a movie. And as a matter of fact, the spike in watching during COVID is what pushed for them to have a movie. So, thanks COVID. Anyway, the entire premise of the show is about Tony Soprano, Jersey mob boss, starts out as a capo, in the beginning, or captain in the chain of command in the Jersey mob, and works his way up to boss. And it's not just the show, it's not just the events that happen that are, pertaining to the mafia and the mafia's entire racketeering operations and all that they do to acquire funds. It's also the balancing of Tony between his family, his family life and his family life with the mafia. And that's what makes it interesting. And the characters in it are so great. They're written so well. David Chase even said, there were times when people would write letters and be like, he calls it, less yakking, more whacking, and he said the more that he got those letters, the more yakking that he would put into it, So I like I said in the last one, I don't know if it's out of spite or not, but I actually have to tip my hat to him for that, because I feel like he did a phenomenal job, and sometimes the fans just don't really know what they want, because now the show is looked at as a classic, and I feel like if he had, had strayed from his current course that he was taking at the time, the show would not be quite as remembered as the way it is. So, Chase had a plan and he saw it through, and that's why this show is timeless. A show that I can literally watch from front to back over and over, and like not even get tired of it. I don't know what it is. Others are the same way, apparently. I was gonna say there's an entire Reddit page, but there are several Reddit pages dedicated to hardcore Sopranos fans who, have seen the show 1,000 times, and on every watch through they see something new, so they got to come and put it Reddit. It's actually very interesting, especially if you're a fan of the show. So I definitely, I never really point people in the direction of Reddit, but in that case, as far as the Sopranos, it's definitely very interesting and a lot of fun to read. So today what what I am going to do is I'm going to be watching through the pilot today while we're on the Mobcast, and I'm going to be kind of talking about it and, just kind of reminiscing my first thoughts whenever I first watched the watch through of The Sopranos, and, just kind of walk down memory lane. And I'll probably do this again with other episodes, because I'm such a big fan of the show, and I know a lot of other people out there aren't. And like I said, even if you aren't, I feel like listening to this Mobcast and getting a real feel of what the show is on the shows that I actually talk about the show is going to be like a lot of people enjoy it. So or at least give it a shot. So anyway, that's actually what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to be watching the pilot. If you're going to watch along with me, I'm going to tell you exactly when I hit play. Give me just a moment. Okay, I'm going to be hitting play in 3. Oh, you know what? I'm just like, here it is. So if you pause it or whatever, the Mobcast, get ready. And then if you're going to watch along the pilot with me, I'm going to be starting the pilot on HBO Max in 3, 2, 1, play. Okay. And anyone else that has HBO Max knows it takes like a little bit to get through some of this crap in the beginning. I'm going to let the credits roll, just so there's no confusion. We're already starting off. But for anybody who watches this show, I know, especially if you were a new fan right after COVID, this show, this theme, Got Yourself a Gun, woke up this, I think the name of the song is Woke Up This Morning. But if you are a fan of this show, you had this stuck in your head for days in and days out. I know I did. I made Snapchats of me driving around with this song playing in the background like I was in Jersey, and I'm like the farthest thing from Jersey on the map. But like, it's such a good song. It's catchy as hell. In the beginning, you get a really good. I got back from Jersey not too long ago, and I'm looking at all the scenery in the beginning of the show, and like just from him going over the GW the bridge. Excuse me. I'm sorry. For him going over the bridge and seeing all the different scenes that we're in, especially that large graveyard and these small areas where Satriale's was located. Satriale's was a really good set, by the way. I went to the original. Bonnie Taylor actually took a picture of me. I was in front of the original meat shop, Santana's, I believe. is the name of it. And I was standing right, I got a picture in front of it where they did the pilot, because in the pilot episode, they weren't actually at the original market of Satrials. So it's starting off the action. The show starts off with a younger, much younger James Gandolfini sitting in the waiting room of Dr. Melfi's office, and Dr. Melfi is his psychiatrist for the entire show. She's literally in just about every episode. If there might be one or two she's not in, but pretty much she's almost in every episode. He's just not. They just not met each other. He's going in to talk to her. This part of the show, they established this. I'm glad they established this as the first thing, because these scenes with Dr. Melfi are very important to understand Tony's psychology. Some people probably paid attention to the scenes very closely to try to figure out patterns of their own, especially their first watch through or when the show was on the air. But he's just now meeting Dr. Melfi, a psychiatrist, looking around the room. She knows who he is, and he knows that she knows. I mean, it's no secret that he is part of the New Jersey mob. This entire family, as you will see, has been on TV, so on and so forth. She's very good actor. Lorraine Bracco, such a good actor. She played in Goodfellas. She's been in other independent films over time, and a couple of TV shows, if I'm not mistaken. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't kept up with her I haven't held on to her coattails, what I'm saying. But I know she did a phenomenal job as Tony Soprano's secretary. Get the fuck out of here. As Tony Soprano's psychiatrist. You really get to look and see what his strengths are, what his weaknesses are, how he reacts to anger and sadness. Even now, as he sits in the psychiatrist's office and they kind of conversate back and forth, he's denying that anything's really wrong with him, and it's very clear that he is putting up like a mental wall. Dr. Melfi, like I said, she did a great job with this role. He's actually recollecting right now. He says in the beginning, while he's recollecting, he's having this memory that he's explaining to her. He's laying in bed talking about how he feels like he came in, like he feels like there was a time when the older fellas, which he's referring to in the mafia, came in at the beginning of a good thing, and now he is coming in at the end of it. And what he's referring to is, as time goes on, I would imagine like so much more, surveillance and the FBI is so much more in tune to how criminals operate, and really things like getting into the psychiatric realm of a criminal is something that they've really used, especially now, to catch a lot of top tier criminals. At this point in the show now, in his memory, it shows him walking out in his bathrobe. That's what he does a lot in this show, and he has an infatuation with ducks for some reason. And he's talking about how these two wild ducks showed up in his yard or in his swimming pool, and all of a sudden a whole family of ducks shows up. It shows him feeding them bread. He's infatuated with these ducks. He loves them, and this is something that I feel like that was written into the show to early on to show you that, each episode has its own nuance and connection to an even bigger thing that's going to come into the future. I can imagine, to be honest with you, I don't really remember watching the first episode as it aired. I was pretty young, but I know that had I seen that at the time, since this show aired in 1999, much long ago, way longer ago than I'd like to explain. But when it did air and I had seen, those types of things, you could definitely tell that he was setting you up for something, because it's just the way that he treats the ducks. It introduces his wife, Carmela, right now, who's watching him from the window, played by Edie Falco, again, another actor that just knocked it out the park, along with James Gandolfini. And I haven't really talked about him that much in this Mobcast, because in the last episode, I really, went into deep detail about him. He goes without saying he was the shining star of the show, but there were definitely a lot of shining stars in orbit, and one of them was Edie Falco. It introduces Meadow, Jamie Singler, She is plays his daughter. She does a great job. There's an episode or two where another actress plays her, but for the majority of the show, it's her. Now, Hunter Scangarello, who is her friend, who's actually with her right now at breakfast, is David Chase's daughter, and a lot of people don't know that. But you also see a young AJ, which stands for Anthony Jr., his young son. It's actually his birthday in this episode. He's a little chubby kid. He changes dramatically in the show as well. It's amazing to see just how much of a transformation that all of them go through. There's such a difference between the characters, like just the mannerisms, the accent, they grew so well into the characters. Even for the pilot, it still looks like, compared to the rest of it, it falls in line well in the timeline. So Tony continues speaking to a psychiatrist, and now you're introduced in a memory to another main character from the show. Michael Imperioli plays his, quote, nephew, Christopher Moltisanti. Christopher Moltisanti, which they're driving, he and Tony are just casually driving right now, having mafia conversation, you see early on that Christopher really works Tony's nerves with his lack of motivation and his lack of, is just the passion for that Tony has and the understanding that Tony has. And right here, this is one of my favorite parts in the show. Sorry. One of my favorite parts in the show, and probably a lot of people's favorite part, is whenever they see a guy at an office building passing through, and so they swing the car into in the parking lot. They're going in right now, and they play this really old song. It's like, I wonder why I love you like I do. And he says, there was an issue for a second. And the doctor, this is the part where Dr. Melfi says, I'm not sure where this story's going, but there's a few things that you need to know. Number one, if I hear anything that's illegal, I have to go to the police, right? So, anything that she's explaining, doctor-patient, the, accountability, but anything that she hears, like, let's say a murder, then she has to call the police, and she has to. So Tony, the look on Tony's face, he's taking this in like, are you fucking serious? But he's like, okay. I think that especially in this scene, James Gandolfini's facial expressions, especially throughout, especially later seasons, so on and so forth. But for this to be the pilot, man, he was still a really good actor. So anyway, he explains to a psychiatrist that he had coffee. Now that they're showing what really happened, his nephew Christopher's jumping out, chasing this guy. I mean, and this has got to be a TV show, and in the 90s, because like there are people all looking around, people are staring. This guy gets out, kicks Christopher in the balls. Tony hops in the car. He's in the car right now, backs all the way up, damn near into the street, and then starts driving through the sidewalk, through the grass, to catch this guy. The older I am, every time I watch this, I say to myself, this is absolute horse shit. There's no way, especially now, this would ever fucking fly. There's so many cameras everywhere. There's like birds carrying cameras now with so many. But just for entertainment purposes, one of my favorite scenes, he is driving, passing people, damn near knocking people over, almost killing people, like a janitor, some custodian guy. And finally he gets to the guy that owes him money, drives right up on the grass, and nails him. Right with the bumper of the car. Christopher's brand new Lexus, which he is about to bitch about in a moment. All right, so this is the kind of life that Tony lives. He's getting out of his car now. He's checking on him. He's like, you all right? And the guy's like, my leg is broken. And he's like, oh, let me see. And now Tony's punching the shit out of his leg. So, yeah, first episode, you understand Tony Soprano. He is literally beating this man's broken leg with the bone broken through. Tony Soprano doesn't fuck around. Now, Christopher's back in his car looking at the damage. He's like, what are you doing? Get over here. And Christopher's like, I just bought this. And Tony's like, beat this dude's ass. This is what we came here for. So Chris is kicking the guy's ass on the ground. So people are standing around watching. It's absolutely outrageous. Yeah, he's like, people like you, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I owed you money, you piece of shit. You know, he's basically, you know, telling him he needs to collect his money. So he leaves this guy battered and bruised, and he and Christopher casually get back into the Lexus and make their way away. Just like that. No cops, no cameras. Hundreds of, it looks like there's 20 people around, but this was 1999, so nobody had a camera phone. And now, like I mentioned earlier, I stood in front of Santani's meat shop. This is where we go. This is a scene now in front of Santani's where they're sitting around having another very mafia-oriented conversation about somebody from Czechoslovakia and the garbage business. That's actually Tony's front company is Barone Sanitation. He does what he calls non-permissible waste management, which is really just saying I'm in the mafia with a giant red flag on your fucking forehead. But they're having conversations here. You know, he's here. Chrissy's here. This is where you don't really meet them, but you meet Silvio Dante, who is Tony is consigliere, or who does the communication between him and other families. He's sitting here with other people, the family, another soldier, Pussy Bopensiero, real name Salvatore Bopensiero, also sitting with Paulie Walnuts, who is real name Paulie Gualtieri, who is another person in the family. He is he's another earner for Tony, another person who's been in the family for a long time, in that Jersey Mafia family, even before Tony was ever even considering being part of the family. So he is definitely an old schooler. We meet a lot of people in this episode. We really meet all the main characters right straight away. We go straight to Tony's Uncle Junior, who is played by Dominic Chayas. I don't want to butcher his last name. He's a great actor and a great singer. After I've seen this show, apparently he's a great actor, and as a matter of fact, he was such. I give a lot of props to the man that played, and I can't think of the actor's name right offhand, but he played Uncle Junior in The Many Saints of Newark, a younger version, and the guy did a great job. But I just think to myself, all these mannerisms and all of these things, they came from Dominic, the actor, and the actor that portrayed Uncle Junior really just knocked it out of the fucking park. The chemistry between he and James Gandolfini in their scenes is just, it's phenomenal. There's one scene actually where he actually admits when doing a scene with James Gandolfini that he started to cry. You can actually see it. You know, it's a scene where like Tony's like, "Don't you love me?" And you know, it was I believe it was the 20th year reunion of The Sopranos, and he said that during that interview, and that's really, I believe it though, because some of these scenes are so amazing, and this is where you meet another huge piece of Tony's life is Tony's mother, and for the life of me, she's a great actor too. I can't right off my bat think of her name. I'm not gonna just sit here and not think of this woman's name. I'm gonna look it up right now because I'm an ill-prepared scumbag. Sorry. But yeah, you meet her right now. She's a very honorary woman, very negative, very impactful on Tony's life. Tony does everything he can to get validation and love from his mother, and she dangles it in front of him like a carrot. Very manipulative. Let me see. Tony Soprano's mother. Her name is Olivia in the show, by the way. And she is just absolutely dreadful. And her character is absolutely dreadful, which means the actress whose name I'm trying to find right now, again, I apologize, more talking, less tapping, played by Nancy Lou Marchand. Okay, Nancy Lou Marchand. And unfortunately, during the filming of the show, in the second season, she passes away. But in the time she was there, like I said, great job. Right now, Tony Soprano, like I said, who constantly seeks validation from his mother, has shown up at her house with CDs and all kinds of stuff for, trying to get a smile out of her, which is not nearly impossible. I can remember when watching some of the outtakes of this or seeing some pictures that this lady was dealing with some some respiratory issues, badly to the point where she was needing oxygen in between shoots. And that's also impressive too. It's quite a sacrifice, and you never even notice it. You can't even tell. That's just dedication. Something to definitely be. It's definitely admirable. Watching Tony try to dance with his mom here, she's like, "Get the fuck off me." But every time he mentions his father too, she's always like, "He was a saint. He was a saint." And he mentions in one of the psychiatric one of the therapy sessions, he tells Dr. Melfi, he's like, when she always spoke about my father, now she speaks of him now like he was a saint. He's a saint this, he's a saint that. When he was alive, nothing, and that's just something that you see that Livia does, and his mother is so manipulative in the show, and she raised a lot of manipulative children, which you will see Tony's siblings, later on in the show. His sister Janice too. I've seen a lot of people like there's also a Reddit I've seen that she. I promise you, I don't spend like millions of hours on Reddit, but when it comes to Sopranos, I do, or I look for. I look for other people's opinions on it all the time, because they see and have theories that I really have never thought about. So, and it's very interesting. But there's a Reddit page of people that just hate Tony Soprano's sister Janice. They cannot stand her, and she's another one that is her character is supposed to be blatantly annoying, blatantly a slacker, blatantly lost in life, blatantly lying to themselves, and just blatantly all around just a piece of shit. I mean, Tony is also, by moral standard, a piece of shit as well, because he's a cold-hearted murderer. But, his sister also, knowing that that's the life that he lives, and the life that his father lives, and Junior, and all the rest, and everyone else in the family, Dick and Moltisanti, knowing all of that, plus still being a piece of shit on top of that, that is quite an accomplishment. So, and that's just one of the many things I've heard and seen. This is an important part of the series right here. Tony is outside barbecuing, and he's grilling for a party. It's actually AJ's birthday party, which I mentioned, his son. It was his birthday. He's seeing the ducks trying to fly right now. Well, the ducks that are, like, while he's grilling, the ducks are flying away. They're flying away out of the pool. The ducks he's been watching for several weeks now, they have flown away completely. And he clutches his chest. His cigar falls out of his mouth. The camera does this effect where it's filming him from the lower half, shooting upward, and he falls over. And after he falls over, he drops the lighter fluid into the barbecue. Wait for it, and it explodes. So this is his first panic attack that he has, and he has these in the show. This is what triggers his need for a psychiatrist. You see Silvio out spraying the food and everything else with a fire extinguisher. And Tony is immediately taken to have an MRI done. He's laying in the he's laying down waiting for the machine to go in to make sure he's all right. This is all a recollection that he's having right now it's still having the recollection with the therapist. But like I said before, Tony's entire psychiatric frequency gets laid out before us thanks to Dr. Melfi's sessions, which I think are very enjoyable, because it's showing two separate worlds. They're not meshing well at all. It's not like they meet and kind of embellish one another's opinions. They are completely different worlds. One has an entire thought process completely surrounded by years of psychiatric medicine, and an entire, has structure to all of her arguments and tries to make sense of things using these tools. And then you have another who is Tony, her counterpart in the sessions, who is just volatile towards everything, has the same pattern over and over again. And Dr. Melfi eventually finds out, spoilers, like you didn't know that was coming, finds out that he is one of these types of people that just can't be cured. And even a criminal's mind, who is also a sociopath like Tony, and a narcissistic sociopath at that, because people have died just for saying the wrong thing, with Tony involved. Something else that he and his reluctant to admit it Uncle Junior, an attribute they both share, is that they're very prideful. But he is one of those, he's one of those people that everything that he does is a criminal racket. Everything is just another criminal operation, which is something that Melfi finds out. But here in the beginning, she's completely ignorant to that. And she doesn't know that, she's really dealing with someone who is, basically incurable. This is another interesting, another one of my favorite scenes too, is you see Christopher. Now, earlier in the show, I told you they were having a conversation about something to do with Baronne's sanitation and the garbage business. Well, Christopher volunteered to take care of the situation. So right now, apparently, someone from a countering operation of garbage business is there to meet Christopher. And he and Christopher are having a beer, and he invited him into the meat shop. They're meeting after hours. The meat shop they had earlier, they also own the meat shop. I forgot to mention that too, that they were meeting at. So Tony Soprano's nephew, Christopher, and this other man that he met with, whose name I don't think I'd be able to pronounce it right, but he's Czechoslovakian, and they're talking about his heritage. And so now that they're having this conversation, the guy came to do apparently cocaine with him. So Christopher pulls out a cleaver with a couple lines of coke on it, hands him a straw, tells him, have at it. And so while the guy is carelessly leaning down to take a hit, Christopher shoots him right in the back of the head when he goes down to take a couple of rails of cocaine down, and he continues to shoot him. While he's shooting him, I mean, he pretty much empties maybe half the magazine in him. But so he shoots this guy dead in the meat market, and the entire point of this was to invite him in, pretend he's his friend, and then blow his brains all over the floor. This also is a very integral part of the show, because this is something that Christopher wears on his shoulders and says that he believes he should have been made, which we all know is to be part of the mafia full time, in other words. And now we meet Uncle Junior. Tony has been given information that one of his friends, who is Artie Bucco, which is another main character in the show. I did mention his Uncle Junior earlier. Oh, his Uncle Junior is going to have someone killed in his friend Artie's restaurant. That's one thing I will say. All of these things circulate in the pilot. They crammed as many subplots into the show in the beginning as possible. And most of the time I would consider that overkill, but I feel like all of the situations that they were brought before us in the pilot episode really give us a vast feeling or a vast perception of what really goes on in the life of a Jersey mobster, and what really goes on in the life of, a Jersey mobster's wife. Speaking of, she's sitting in her house with the priest just now. She runs outside with what looks like an AK-47 because she thinks someone's jimmying the window, and it's actually Meadow, her daughter, sneaking back in, clearly being a lying, thieving, cheating person, much like her father. And I mean, she first thing she did was lie, which is something that Tony, you will find as a fan of this show, that Tony does nonstop, and I mean constantly, nonstop, bald-faced lie to people. I mean, not even blink. And it's just at one end of the spectrum, you're like, Jesus Christ, what a lying sack of shit. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you're like, now that's good acting, and and both sides are great. Both sides of the spectrum are absolutely correct. So we spend a large majority of this episode talking to Dr. Melfi, and you can tell that she's asking all the right questions to really pluck the nerves and heartstrings of Tony Soprano here. So this also, this part of the show, you can see Tony is trying to divert the conversation away. So he's asking questions about her credentials. Dr. Melfi, even though very mentally strong person, sticks to her morals, sticks to her scruples, sticks to her psychiatric teaching and her methods of psychiatric evaluation. Giving her thought. She's definitely, she's not someone who is easily swayed. Okay, but it is painfully obvious that she has never, nor did she ever think that she would deal with a situation like this, because she in this entire series has gone through so many things with him. There are times when she should have, and she did, make the decision to no longer be his psychiatrist, but something kept pulling her back. So, it's really interesting to see, the just such magnetism between the two of these characters. Because even Tony, he himself is, whether he'll come right out and say it. He comes and puts the elephant in the room that he is literally just infatuated with his psychiatrist, which she looks at like as a complete, whatever. It's a momentary thing, but to show his reaction to things as compared to someone who is not a murdering sociopath is interesting. As a matter of fact, she brought up the Ducks now. This is the end of the session. He dashed out of the session just now, got up and walked out because she plucked at the heartstrings once again. Tony's a very emotional person in this show too. A mob boss that's emotional. Most of them were when it came to things like pride and, quick to anger. I mean, it's just something that it just was what it was. There were a lot of mobsters who were quick to anger. It goes down in history. I mean, a lot of sick people like Nicky Scarfo. I mean, Nicky Scarfo was quick to kill somebody. Albert Anastasia, no problem, knocking somebody's head clean off. John Gotti wore great suits and, $5,000 suits left and right, talked to the public, gave a smiling face, and had no problem giving the order of knocking someone's brains clean out and throwing them in the harbor. So to see this up close under a magnifying glass is absolutely just, it's breathtaking, I'll say. The death that Christopher just committed, killing the man of the opposite garbage company to his, he and Big Pussy Bopancero, who I mentioned earlier, one of the soldiers in the family, they're trying to dispose of the body right now. Christopher being fairly new, he is young in this season. Young as in young and in age, and also young as in new to the life, new to La Cosa Nostra and the mafia. So they're having trouble, getting rid of the body right now. He and Big Pussy are carrying it to the trunk and dumping it in, to get rid of it. This actual scene, or this entire happening, like I said, plays a big part in him because he has dreams about it, and he tries to console with others, and it's so crazy. He tries to sit down and really have his feelings validated from other people who have killed people, so he won't feel so bad about killing his first person. That was his first person to kill, or what they call popping your cherry in this show. A lot of times, in order for you to be made into the family, you have to do something called making your bones, and that's the same thing. But right now, and this is something else as far as Tony having to deal with the other side of his family, he is now trying to place his mother into what he calls a retirement community nursing home. Anytime someone calls it a nursing home, he's like, it's a retirement community. It's another, and as I say that, they're in the foyer of the nursing home. Tony falls over again, and so he falls over, has another panic attack, and now it shows him back into the psychiatrist's office. He's back again. He walked out like he didn't need it. He has another one. This visit, you can tell, is a lot more emotional. You can see from the jump he is angry and does not want to be here. And they're getting to, it's his mother's constant nagging. If you're still like closely following along, you can tell this show is like, it rolls on to just, it's it really has its own flow, but it's a good flow. It's a great, like, the rewatch value for the show is fucking unbelievable. So he believes that his mother was one of those people that, which she was a psychic vampire. He says it, quote, he's one of those women that rubbed, his father to the nub, wore all the way, just wore him down, never got any satisfaction out of anything. Barely. The Rico statutes you brought up, he mentioned the Rico statutes, which is basically the statute that says anyone that's involved in racketeering, anyone who is connected to that is also guilty of the crime too. It actually allows you to arrest many people at once. I've spoken about that many times on this Mobcast and my other videos. But yeah, he mentions it and he's like, yeah, so I'm part of the Rico statute. And she's like, Rico, is that your brother? And it always gets me because it's like, this woman's so innocent to the ways. She has no idea she has a fucking, like, just serial killer sitting right in front of her, and she doesn't know it throughout the entire show. And a lot of people pay the price for it, just being, even involved with this man. Tony's very volatile. He's very, emotional. He's very, like I said earlier, he has impulse problems, especially at the very beginning of the show. He has absolute trouble controlling his impulses, and he feels that, getting more of the psychiatric treatment from Dr. Melfi is going to help him over time. But like I said earlier, there is literally no cure for a sociopathic serial murderer, and she has to find that out the hard way. So, I mean, I'm not going to lie, I just made a Snapchat of that. I'm going to throw that on the old feed. There we go. God, I'm a scumbag. But so now another character that we meet in the show is Tony's friend. He's very in on everything. He makes money. He might as well be part of the fucking family. He's not Sicilian. He is Jewish. They call him Hesh, but he was Tony's father's close friend, and he is someone who's in the music business, and they do a lot of business with him. As the show goes on. He advises to him. He's like just basically like a right-hand advisor, a chaplain to him, somebody who gives him the advice that he needs whenever he needs it. He's a bit of an old schooler, but he's not a violent, hardcore player like the rest of them. But where there's money to be made, you can definitely believe that Hesh is going to be there, and he's always involved with it. So, very good character. Can't think of his name to save my life either. Another ill-prepared moment brought to you by the Pinstripe Alley official Mobcast. Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to thank my parents. It's their fault. Anyway. So, yeah. Just giving them information right now. Just kind of having a talk. I would talk about exactly what they're talking about, but for Christ's sake, just talking about the subplot alone, the mini subplots in the show alone is enough. To really go into detail would me just be talking 100 miles an hour trying to keep up with all this shit, because they mealy mouth a lot too. But it's just a lot of mafia talk, a lot of money talk, that bleeds into the second episode, and so on and so forth. Tony also owns a strip club called the Bada Bing, which I think is phenomenal. So phenomenal that if you follow me on Snapchat or Facebook or Twitter, you have seen that my coffee cup, which I drink all my coffee out of, is from a mug with the Bada Bing logo on it. The Bada Bing, the naked chick with the pasty stars on her nips. Yeah, that's the place. I like this scene too, where they show that Carmela pulling some money out of the pantry, and it's hidden inside of what looks like a like a soup can or something. It's a really good mix. I feel like this could have been possibly not a good show at all, or a less of a good show. But it's just a lot of the cast during the interviews during the 20th anniversary, actually there were more people who didn't think the show was going to be successful than there were the people that did. I specifically remember Tony Sirico raising his hand when they asked, "Did you think the show was going to be successful?" He's like, "I knew it. I knew it was going to be good." He had that much faith in James Gandolfini. He had faith in the rest of the cast. He had faith in himself. I guess he just seen the same vision that David Chase had, but it was seen through very carefully, and you can see that. You can see that like there weren't like you can see that there was a very fine line that was walked when making this show. A lot of liberties were taken. A lot of Steve Buscemi directed several episodes. He directed one of the most famous Sopranos episodes, known as Pine Barrens, where Chrissy Moltisanti and Paulie Gualtieri, who also have great on-screen chemistry together, they get lost in Pine Barrens, a snowy place in New Jersey, South New Jersey. And it's just a brilliant episode. There's humor. There's a lot of humor in this episode. For them to be in such a dire and perilous situation, there is a massive amount of humor in this episode throughout it. I'd say it might be one of the funniest episodes of the entire series. But yeah, just even though they took all those different liberties, they still walked the fine line to keep the show a certain type of quality, or type of I'm going to go ahead and say aura or energy that it gives off. Because another thing that I personally noticed, which I later read others did too, is that the show is very music free. It doesn't have a lot of music in it. It has music in certain parts, but it's not very music oriented. There's parts where there's just a lot of silence in the background and scenes just, carry on, and they're just, it's just good. I like that feeling. I really feel like that is one of the main reasons why this show has so much rewatchability to it. It has such great rewatch value, is because it allows those things. There's no huge distractions. It's just the scenes themselves, and you get them in their rawest form with great cinematography and great acting. And there's no scene that you misunderstand, unless of course one of the accents throws you off a little bit. But other than that, it's a very good show. You meet Artie Bucco now, whose restaurant they were going to kill someone in, who's Tony is trying to stop his uncle from doing, because it is Tony's childhood friend. You meet Artie's wife here, Charmaine Bucco, who is clearly a handful to Arthur all throughout the show. She's very sassy. She's very high-strung, very mouthy, and very, very nasally. I'm gonna say her. She's a very loud. I mean, it just makes me want to scream. Like in some scenes, but some scenes. She definitely plays her part well too, because Artie is kind of a shithead throughout the show, and if you have not already, and should you choose to watch, you will figure that out. Another very mafia'd up scene that's for the specific mafia heads, is both Hesh in this scene taking part in this threatening of a man who Tony hit earlier, and Pussy is basically explaining another scam that this guy needs to be involved in order for him to pay off his debt. So there's a scam that he and Hesh came up with. The guy still owes money, and what they're basically doing is they're basically threatening to throw this guy into the ocean. It's very subtly, in so many words. He's like, "Come on, it's beautiful here. Let's go out there. I like to go out there to think. You want to go with me?" And then, Big Pussy Boppin' Sarah throws his cigarette over, and it's like he's basically showing him just how far of a drop it is, And he realizes they're alone now. And, very good mafia scene. The guy caves, obviously, because he doesn't want to be thrown off a bridge. So yeah, that's that scene, and it's great. There's another scene, with this same bridge, where a guy gets thrown off by another character named Michael Palmisi, but that's for a later episode. Tony's dressing sense also, they really stuck to the bowling shirts for Tony. He wears them a lot. I don't even know if I see Tony go bowling once in this show that I can think of. You can definitely tell this is an older episode because Paulie Gualtieri or Paulie Walnuts doesn't have like a lot of heavy talking scenes or speaking scenes in the show. Yeah. So that's, I may not rip through the entire episode. I might do it. There's so much garbage in this scene. Jesus Christ. Nice shot of nighttime New Jersey. And this is another character that will be in the show for a long time that gets introduced at this point. Her name is Adriana. She turns out to be Chrissy's girlfriend / wife later on in the show, or fiance or whatever. She is another who meets quite a tragic end. In this scene, Tony, you see him out trying to mingle, and he's actually with what you would call a gumar, or a side chick, a side woman other than your wife. And a lot of mobsters had a gumar, or called a comer, or gumar, whatever. It's pronounced differently. He sees her in public here, and he's not supposed to. Well, it's not supposed to. It's just he makes it very awkward. But yeah. So I think right here is where I'm gonna stop the pilot episode, because it's it's about 3/4 of the way through. But I feel like this alone is enough to give a good insight of Tony Soprano's life. And if you're watching the episode now, please continue to watch it. I'm just going to cut it off right there because I got just a little bit of time left on the show. But thank you guys for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I really wanted to do this for a long time, kind of have a little watch along on the podcast. I would, like I said, doing the video, I might do that next time whenever, I have my camera back. Or like I'm going to probably I had an HD camera. I'm going to go ahead and pick up a 4K if I ever start doing that again. That way, everything will be clear and there won't be any sound issues or anything like that. So yeah. Once again, guys, my book, The Gatekeepers, it is on Amazon. And also The Gatekeepers Part 2. And you can also check out my other videos, which more are coming. For those who've been asking, I promise you, more mob gods, hard hitters of the American Mafia. The other playlist on my channel, my YouTube channel, AP Fanene. More of those are coming. The last one that I did was it was an entire breakdown of Michael Francese's life, and yes, you definitely go check it out. I'll leave I'll leave a link to the video whenever this one ends. And so I hope you guys enjoyed watching The Sopranos with me today. It was a lot of fun for me too. Go ahead, if you haven't already, like and subscribe, since this will be on YouTube for now. In the future, I have been in the works of getting this on Spotify and so on and so forth. So in the future, you'll most probably you will no longer have to be using YouTube anymore. You can listen to me on Spotify, so you don't have to worry about that. People have been saying that, get it on Spotify. They listen to it while they're cleaning. They listen to it while they're driving or whatever it is they're doing. I completely understand. It's hard to do it on YouTube because YouTube's app unless you pay for their service, is a pain in the ass. So I will have it on Spotify ASAP. Also, one more thing. I'm in the works of having a co-host with me for the show. I'm not going to say who it is yet. He's a friend of mine. A lot of people who know me know him. So I'm going to see about that for the next show, because he is also a fan of the Mafia, a Sopranos fan, and pretty much a fan of everything else that kicks ass: wrestling, video games, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, as you can see, that's why I would have this type of co-host to come for the show. So yeah, until next time, wise guys, made men, ladies and gentlemen, and anyone else, we will see you next time on Pinstripe Alley. Take care and have a good night.